Hello, party people. Hello, and welcome to episode number 100 of the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott. I cannot believe that over the past few months, this podcast has resulted in no less than 100 episodes. That's crazy. Especially since it was an impulsive decision that was years in the making. I did not expect that I would enjoy this podcast and making it and the feedback from it as much as I have. So thank you so much, every single one of you, for listening to this podcast where I talk all about life, love, healing, spirituality, witchcraft, magic, tarot, mediumship, feminine energy, life, existence, the universe, and everything. It has been so fun to do this podcast. And before I get into today's topic, I just wanted to do a little shout out for Spiritual September, which is happening right now. We are a few days into September, but it is definitely not too late to join us in the very cool group chat experience. So if you remember, I did Magic May back in May, where I gave little prompts and activities every single day for an entire month, all related to magic and witchcraft, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I was inspired to do something specifically about spirituality and beliefs. I think that is something that a lot of folks struggle with a lot more than magic and witchcraft, because it is a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more abstract, and we actually do often have to take some time and actually reflect and think about it, rather than witchcraft, which is something that we can just fucking do, you know, like read a book, follow the instructions, do the recipe, clap your hands and say boo, or like whatever. And spirituality and belief and cosmology, it is something that is slower. It takes more time to figure out. It's thoughtful, it's reflective, it's all these things. And it's harder. You know, it's a harder thing for most people to really dive into. As a Sagittarius, I've always been a really philosophical person. I built my own spiritual cosmology in a really detailed way by the time I was like 8 years old, and I fucking love this stuff. Like, my spiritual cosmology hasn't really changed since then. It's just gotten more and more evidence to support what I believe through my decades of practice. And though that came really naturally to me, I know that's not the case for everyone. And that is the big reason behind Spiritual September. And so if you do want to join us, you can do so at sabrinamscott.com/sept, S-E-P-T. You can also, if you're confused, send me an email, ceo@sabrinamscott.com, or send me a hello on Instagram @sabrinamscott. And if you can't find the link, or if you're confused or whatever, just send me a WhatsApp and I will help you out. But please do join. All of the prompts for every single day are pinned, so even if you're a few days late, you'll be able to catch up and even journal it out in your own time. Like, even if participating in the group isn't really for you, and if that's the case, like, that's totally okay. You can still journal each of the things just for yourself, right? Because ultimately, while one of the benefits of this is community, at the end of the day, if you just want to share intermittently, what's important is that you're able to connect with the prompts and you're able to just do that reflection and process that in whatever your own pace and methodology is, with me to hold your hand a little bit if you want me to. And I just posted on Instagram the theme for today, which was, who do you believe in? What is one spiritual being that you believe in? And for me, how I answered my own prompt was to talk a little bit about Saint Lucy. and her connection to me. I have a whole St. Lucie altar in my apartment, which is separate from my Santa Muerte altar, which is way bigger. The St. Lucie one is a little bit smaller because her energy is a little bit more chill. But if you want to read a little bit more about that, you can just pop on over to my Instagram, Sabrina M. Scott, and just see that altar photo with the statues of St. Lucie, and you can read a little bit of what I had to say about my connection with her as a little bit of an introduction to Spiritual September. Yay. So today's episode is not about that. Today's episode is about me lowering my tarot reading rates, at least from now until the end of the year. And you guys might be like, Sabrina, why are you making an entire episode about this? Like, can't you just say it and be done with it? But I wanted to use this as an opportunity to chat it out about a few things in business, because I know I'm not the only entrepreneur here. I know many of you have your own businesses. Maybe you have a spiritual business. Maybe you're a therapist. Maybe you're a lawyer. Maybe you're a hairdresser. Maybe you're a nail tech. I don't know. But I think it's an interesting opportunity just to chat this out a little bit and obviously let you guys all know that my rates are lower. So I've been reading tarot professionally for quite a long time now. I've been reading cards, like at least since I was 10. I've been reading for like 23 years now, which is kind of crazy. Professionally, probably for a decade. I'm really bad at keeping track of all of these things. And my rates have really changed a lot over the years, right? And for a long, long, long time, they just kept going up and up and up and up and up because I was too fucking busy. I was too exhausted. I had so much other stuff going on that really I could not do as many clients as I had on the roster. It was just too intense. And so what you do when the demand exceeds the supply is to raise the rates. And that has been working really, really well for me over the past few years. But I was kind of thinking about it a little bit lately, and though I do still have a bunch of tarot clients, I actually really miss reading more frequently. And the way that I've set up my business, the way that I've set up my life, I actually have free time right now. And I want to spend that free time reading more often for folks because I find it so enriching and so expansive to meet someone else's being and heart and mind and soul in that moment. And so some of y'all might be wondering, like, Sabrina, why did you lower your rates? And the honest reason is because I fucking felt like it. Because I wanted to. Like, why not? And it's so interesting because I've seen so many business coaches just be like, raise your rates. It's always, like, just keep raising them. Like, there is no ceiling. Like, raise your rates forever. And while I think there is some truth to that in some situations, and I'm not going to say I will never raise them back up, like I probably will eventually, because money, while it's very real, it's also kind of made up. And so it's just like a very weird, complicated thing, which is energy, and it's real and it's not real, and it's just a very complicated topic. The more I've learned about money as I've gotten older, the more complicated and also the more simple it is. And so whenever I get an intuitive hit on what a price for something should be, usually I just kind of go with it. And it's served me really, really well. And I've doubled my rates over the years. I've tripled my rates over the years. Like, I've done more than that over the years, and all of that has been very intuitive, and with each of those decisions I knew it was the right decision for that moment. But as times change, as my energy changes, as all these different things shift, I do think it's important to heed those intuitive hits, those intuitive movements in the other direction as well. And so whenever I do a sale, whenever I run a really cheap program, like Spiritual September is a really cheap program for what you're getting. It's only $97 for an entire month. Magic May, since it was the first time I ever tried anything like that, I think it was $47, I can't remember, for a month. And that is dirt cheap based on the value that people got out of that. And I charged $97 for Spiritual September because I was like, okay, I kind of know what the value is now. I know kind of what to expect from others. I know the expectation on myself. I know the value. Okay, that's what I feel intuitively is the right call. And so I think the same can be said for sales, for lowering prices, for raising prices. I think it's so crucial to follow our intuition with this kind of stuff of what feels right, what feels true to me right now, what feels like the right call. And sometimes why that thing is the right call, like whether it's to raise or to lower the rates, like the reason for that sometimes becomes more clear later, like months or years down the line. Like you can kind of see, okay, this is how this fits into my overall business plan, or the flow of my business, or the flow of my energy, or the flow of money into the business, the flow of money out of the business, like whatever which way it is. I think one of the things that people often forget in life and in business and in terms of money and love and everything is that it's all fluid. And when we are operating from a space of rigidity, often we become more brittle, right? And so in order to be more fluid, more in movement, more responsive to the current world situation, we have to be okay with bending. We have to be okay with change. We have to be okay with heeding those intuitive hits that are like, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Let's experiment. Let's play. Let's not take it so seriously. Let's see what happens when we make a different choice. And we can always change our mind. I think that's one of the things that people often forget about something like pricing, or, I don't know, making a job switch or making a career switch, or any of these different big life choices, is that we can always change our mind. We can always decide, you know what, that's not for me. Or we can decide, you know what, I am going to raise my rates back up. Or we can decide, you know what, I am going to lower my rates back down. Or we can decide, I am going to do this sale. Or we're going to decide, you know what, I'm not launching that program anymore. I don't want to. It is okay to change our mind. That's why we can bring, I don't know, leggings back to Lululemon if we didn't wear them. Like, as long as maybe we tried them on in the mirror, it was too tight. Maybe the color doesn't really work with our skin tone. We can bring it back. You know, I bought this a few months ago. I bought a one-piece like bodysuit, full body like pants and top thing from Lululemon, and I had to return that thing. I thought it was the right size when I ordered it online, but I could not even like pull the legs like up past my knees. It was like, this thing is way too small. I give up. I brought it back and I got a refund. And like, you know, we can change our mind about certain things. Obviously, there's some certain things we can't. Like, some of the terms of some certain services are no refunds. That's just the terms of engagement. And I think that's completely okay. I think that's reasonable. You know, like my courses are no refunds, for instance, and that's not changing. That's just kind of how it is, due to the nature of what it is. But I think that generally, for many things, we stress so much about making a decision. You know, like, what's my pricing going to be? What are my offerings going to be? And people stress. But it's like, we can experiment, we can play. And if something doesn't work, or if it does work and we actually don't like it, it's okay to pivot. And so a lot of that kind of explains, I just wanted to talk it out for anyone that would find this beneficial. So I think there are many of you who are in business for yourselves. I know that's not everybody, but I do think that this mindset is applicable to everybody, right? That importance of following those intuitive hits about whatever. It can be, you know, as simple as, you know, maybe I want to enroll my kid into this school or that school, or, you know, whatever, which way, or maybe you want to sell the house and you decide you don't want to. Like, none of those situations are relevant to me in any way, but it doesn't mean that it's not relevant to you. And so a big part of why all this magic, spirituality, intuition stuff is so crucial is because it can help us hear that inner voice of what to do, that divine guidance from whatever you want to call it. Our ancestors, gods, goddesses, God, Jesus, saints, spirits, whatever. Our guardian spirit guides might be animals, might be plants, whatever, that are speaking to us all the time, guiding us. When we dive into this spiritual stuff, we can hear all of that so much more clearly. It becomes easier for us to heed and notice that divine guidance that is being offered to us. And then we can make better choices, more aligned choices that result in a life that feels so much more resonant, so much more expansive. But we have to give ourselves the opportunity to listen to that voice, that internal knowing, that gut feeling. What happens if I make this choice? What happens if I go in this direction? That feels right. I don't understand it, but it feels right. And a big part of what I teach is to help people understand what that is, where it comes from, how to notice the difference between a spiritual hit, a spiritual intuition, versus an anxiety, a worry, a paranoia. All of that is so important. And so when we spend more time learning how to listen, our life becomes more interesting. And all of that to say, all of that comes from a contemplation on me lowering my tarot rates, my friends. And so if you've never had a tarot reading before, and maybe you have, I guess I'll just talk for a few moments about what the fuck to expect and like why anyone should even get a tarot reading in the first place. I was talking with a friend about this recently who is going through like a big like midlife career, who am I crisis. Wonderful human. I love this person. So amazing of a human being. And it happens to everyone. And I feel like a lot of us are going through this weird identity crisis right now. Like there's so many stores that I love that are closing right now or have closed. And if you're in the witchy community, you probably know Catland is fucking closing. It's so devastating. Like they were one of the first bookstores ever to carry Witchbody back when it was self-published. That store will forever have a very special place in my heart. Like I'm like tearing up even thinking about it. Like it's one of my favorite witchy stores that's ever been in existence. And if you've ever been there, you absolutely know it's a witchy store that was in Brooklyn in New York. Amazing store, and now it is gone. And I think a lot of us are in this moment of transition. I don't know what's going on with the astrology right now. Actually, yes, I do. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so I think the collective energy right now is so much about this moment of shift, of this deep seismic transformation and these big changes in identity and realizing that, hey, maybe I am different than who I thought I was. We're having to mourn different aspects of our identity that we never thought we would have to or even want to let go. We're in this moment right now where a lot of that is happening for a lot of us on an institutional level, on a community level, on an individual level, on a spiritual level. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's not always easy. And so whenever we are in these moments of seismic, tectonic shift, a tarot reading can be really, really helpful. Right? And in these moments, I find it really preferable to have someone else read for you. I am not above having someone else read for me, though since I know tarot inside and out, I never go personally to another tarot reader. Usually I go to someone outside of even the Western tradition. I usually go to a bone reader or a palero or something like that to do some spiritual reading for me. That's usually what I do once a year. And I know many other readers and people who are professionals in this work do the same thing. So if I'm not above that, then you certainly are not above that either. And it can be incredibly powerful to get an outside perspective. And it can be incredibly powerful and transformative and a catalyst when we welcome in someone else to hear us. When we welcome in another professional, someone who has an outside perspective, who has a series of expertise of whatever that happens to be. In this case, it's tarot. Though for me a few hours ago, that was just me chatting with my therapist, so I'm absolutely not above getting outside perspective. And I go to therapy all the time, even though I have no drama in my life. I have nothing traumatic to talk about at all. My life is great, actually. But it's always possible to go deeper. And I think the same thing can be said with tarot, though I do think it's particularly helpful when we are at the brink of a decision or series of decisions, or we're just feeling very chaotic or very uncertain of our path forward. And so, with tarot, the way that I read, for anyone who doesn't really know, I'm very no bullshit. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I will tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. I have read for people in various life circumstances, affairs, divorces, crazy shit. Like, I have heard everyone's drama. Nothing surprises me. Nothing shocks me. I've read for folks from all different areas of life, polyamorous, kinky people, sex workers, trans folks, like everything and everyone. I have literally heard all of the things. And a big part of what makes the way that I read very unique is I'm very mediumistic in my approach. So no matter if I pull the same cards for two different people, the readings are going to be two different readings because spirit and energy and all of that, everything that I'm reading, it's not just the cards. It's the whole thing all together. It's your energy. It's the energy of the room. It's the energy of the situation. And it's also likely your spirit team whispering in my ear and telling me various things. And part of that is what makes a reading with me unique. And the other aspect of it, of course, is my educational, intellectual background. I'm doing a PhD right now. I've got a master's degree as well. And so a big part of all of that is around psychology, trauma, history of medicine, the history of healing, how to heal trauma. All of that stuff is swirled around in a philosophy of science kind of way. So I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, I'm not any of that stuff. But I still do have a lot of that background knowledge information due to the studies that I've done in my PhD, which is very unique. A lot of tarot readers don't have that. I am also drawing upon my own healing journey of curing my trauma, believe it or not. That's also coming into the fray. And what I'm really, really good at doing when I read for someone is noticing patterns. And so whenever I'm reading for someone, especially a longer reading, like this is easier to do in a 2-hour session than a 1-hour session, but to notice the patterns of why the fuck did you get to where you are? What are the series of choices and what are the life circumstances? What are the past traumas, the past blob of emotions and things that have caused you to get to this current moment that you're at right now? Because oftentimes, like, if we're just going to be treating the symptoms, we're not getting to that core cause of why are you here and then where do you want to go. The way that I read, we go to the core of the problem. How the fuck did you get here? And that's not to shame you, that's not to make you feel bad, it's more to be like, okay, this is a big part of the puzzle that we can't ignore. How do we heal this core wound? How do we attend to this wounding that has led us to this place right now? How do we work with that? And where do you want to go and why? What is the best decision for you moving forward and why? What are the series of actions that you can take to create a better life for yourself moving forward? All of that is what you can expect from a reading with me. So if you're curious about that, you can check out sabrinamscott.com. There's a tarot readings thing at the top. The actual URL, I believe, is sabrinamscott.com/readings. I am here to help you. That is honestly why I do what I do. I love transformation. I love being a catalyst. I love showing people that you are your own catalyst. I see the best in people, and no matter how badly you're judging yourself, and no matter what weird mess that you're in, no matter how ashamed or confused or not good enough you feel, I would like to create space to show you that you are worthy of so much more. It always makes my heart sing when my clients end up happier and feel more empowered to reveal more of who they really are to themselves and people around them, and to let their light out. I know that sounds very cheesy, but I'm like secretly actually very cheesy despite my, aesthetic of being myself. Like, I think there really is something wholesome and beautiful about all of this. And so I know a reading from someone else like can be scary. Like, I am always a little bit nervous before my annual reading. But it's fucking awesome and it's so worth it. And so if you do feel called, it's a great time because, again, I lowered my rates because I felt like it. And so maybe that's the sign that you need to invest in yourself, to invest in your growth, to give yourself that spiritual cold shower. I was going to say slap in the face, but cold shower I think is a little bit more accurate. That cleansing shock to the system that is ultimately very biologically healing on that cellular and spiritual level. So I would invite you to work with me. If you feel called, if it feels resonant, if you're getting a yes, even if you're a little bit scared, I would invite you to reach out, to book a reading. It'd be really fun. I would love to work with you. Okay, my beautiful people, that's it for today. I look forward to chatting with you on the next podcast episode. Thank you so much for all of your support, all of your love, and all of your good energy. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, morning, evening, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you happen to be. Much love. Bye.